Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone, wherever you are. This is Adrienne Lopez, the Integrative Awareness Coach, and I want to welcome you to the final speaker of the Quantum Integration Summit. I'm so pleased that you're here, and I am excited to welcome our last speaker, Marlies. I'm going to butcher this last name. I'm so sorry. Cocheret.
Cocheret.
Yes, this name. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And so I want to tell you a little bit about our guest today before we get started with our official interview. Marlies is the ambassador of her, the mysterious source, and she brings a strong invitation to enter into the silence, which is our true nature, and live this in all of our human experience. She has been offering satsang and retreat since 2000, when Adashanti asked her to teach, devoting her life to the beloved. She tempers the razor-sharp clarity of wisdom and gentleness and kindness to guide us home like a lighthouse. She loves to be with people in the precious unfolding of love and truth. Marlies works internationally as a spiritual teacher, a psychologist, a Hakomi therapist, and a tantric educator. She has developed the way of the woman, or WOW, for those born in female form. WOW is a path for nurturing the flowering of the feminine essence. She has shared her wisdom on the feminine at the face of the feminine of the infinite as a regular speaker at the Science and Non-Duality Conference, or also known as SAND. And this is where I first came in to know her work and listen to her talks and experience her presence. So I'm so glad that you were able to be here today to share your insight with us.
It's a joy to be here with you, Adrienne.
Thank you. Thank you. So I was sharing with you right before we got started about what a joy it's been to participate in all these interviews and how they just took this beautiful order, unbeknownst to me, that just unfolded in the perfect order, and that I was so pleased that you got to be our last speaker and help close this incredible conversation with who you are, actually. So as I was talking with one of our speakers, Acharya Shunya, who I interviewed a couple days ago, I was speaking with her about how what a joy it was to find her and also to find you, because there has been, for me as a woman, a glaring absence of the feminine in non-dualist teachings. And I know that you speak of this yourself in some of your talks. And secondly, just the content of your satsangs have really resonated with me. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to invite you here to share your wisdom with us. So I wanted to start right away and dig into the way of the woman, or WOW, as part of the ambassador of her, the mysterious source. And I was wondering if you could tell us, how did this, and I know it's it's not a simple cut and dry story, but as best as you can, share with us some insight in how this came into being for you and as your work in the world as an inspiration on this path.
Yes, great question. Yeah, because it's very, very dear to my heart, the way of woman. And yeah, how it really started is kind of started unfolding, trickling in, all over my lifetime. But I remember when I was a little girl, there was for me something so important about the feminine. I just loved it, to see females, women, and just to see how they were dressed, to see how they moved themselves, how they danced. I just loved it. And then also I could feel an unhappiness in many women. And, I didn't think so much about it as I speak here about it right now, but I knew there's something wrong. And I knew I loved clothes. I loved anything with femininity. So I went on my own search, plus just really wanting to know what this is all about. And then along the way, many things happened, and I had a rape experience and a lot of other sexual experience, and it knocked me out. And then at some point, something starts waking up, and also getting more and more aware how our lives are decided by being suppressed, the suppressing of the feminine, the suppressing of Mother Earth, the suppressing of our sensual nature, and the suppressing of that also in spirituality, especially in spirituality, but really everywhere in life. So the more I was waking up to my own femininity and kind of embodying that and healing whatever needed to be healed, in that process, I woke up to my own nature, to the deep silence that I am when I was sitting with my first master, with Osho. Bhagwan was his name then, in my early 20s. And then learning and opening more and more, as as we women, we're like flowers that are opening. And that's so much not honored. And so along that journey, more and more, I came in my own femininity and owning that, owning the beauty of that, and finding myself working with women, first very hands-on, touching them and massaging them, and actually going internally in their bodies, also into their yonis and their vaginas, and bringing healing. And that made even more clear how much wounding there was, and how much females, women, people born in female bodies, they don't love their bodies. They're either too big, too small, too something. There's always something. And as was in my experience, but I kind of let go. And then I started more and more teaching to women. So when Adya asked me to teach in 2000, I said to him, I feel moved to offer satsang only for women. And he said, yeah, just go ahead, do what feels right. And we started with the most wonderful group of women in Santa Cruz in California. And we would meet every Monday evening. And the women were upstairs, and all the little girls and little boys were downstairs. And at the end of satsang, they could come up and ask their questions. But there was something different about the satsang just for women and a regular satsang for men and women. And just to be clear, I have nothing against men. I love men. I love the masculine. It's just a little bit, or a little bit a lot, out of balance. Yes. So then I started offering groups for women around sensuality and sexuality. And out of that got really born the way of woman. Really, one day I was just sitting in meditation. I was just sitting, and I felt she, the great her, as I call her, was whispered in my ears, the way of woman. And I had like, wow, that's it. That's what I'm offering. Yes. And so that kind of deepened the journey for women to deeply know you are woman. You're a force being, like born in female form, and that just equals this infinite potentiality and expression of intimacy and sisterhood and sex and sensuality and like everything. And to when we bring this forth in female form, don't we all, as women, or woman as I call it, don't we all want to be flowering and opening and being that feminine self? We know it wants to be lived, and something dies inside or is so sad inside when we cannot live that. So that's kind of what I bring forward in the way of woman. It's kind of we steep together in the silence that we are, you could say in the non-dual. And that's the number one. We steep in our nature as our really deepest nature, which is so still, and all pervasive. It's this wondrous emptiness. And out of that rises woman in female form. And just bringing that together, that silence and the sensuality. And when we bring that together, something comes to life, because as women, we know what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
We know what's possible in form, especially when we're connected with that deep essence that we are. We know we're this mother, lover, earth flowing that wants to flow. And so that's kind of what I'm offering when we come together. I'm kind of, take you by the hand, and together we just dive into the silent her, as I call it, and then we're offering ourselves up to her. And the more we let go of our thoughts and feelings and sensations, just everything, just offering ourselves up to this all pervasive silent her, and she will take us. We will be taken on a journey that will, in that mystery, which is the feminine, is that deep, dark mystery that wants to come to life and express herself. And gosh, she's so alive. Why do you think we as females, over the eons are so suppressed? Not females, males are
Yes.
suppressed too.
Yes.
But
the feminine in general, and the masculine and the feminine.
Yeah, exactly. And because when we're suppressed, we can be controlled. When a woman wakes up to her nature and then brings that alive in form, in her sensuality, she cannot be controlled anymore. She's wild like a lioness, and so tender and soft like an opening flower, and you don't want to mess with her anymore. But it's so deeply rooted in our society as females. Just the corporate world, the amount of money that's put in advertisement to change our bodies, the amount of surgeries on breasts and bellies and yonis and lips and vulva is just incredible.
Insane.
And not only older women, but even young women, 18, 19, in their 20s.
Yeah.
They tell me, I need to change my body. It's so sad. So in the way of woman, I take you by the hand to really dive into you, into your nature, into your beauty, and daring to own that and live that. And along the way, you will find out where you don't live that. And there are wounds, there are societal wounds and collective wounds, personal wounds from our lineage.
Yes.
At some point, it's just knowing they're there, and there's something deeper that wants to come to life. And to me, that's really where spirit, the great her, and the body come together to live to the fullest of our nature. So that's really what I offer in the way of woman, and I just love it. I mean, I'm on fire with that stuff.
I see that. I feel it, and it is communicated through you. Yes. Well, you kind of touched on my next question, but before I go there, I just want to point out a couple things that really resonated, and I would like to create a little bit more clarification around them. This feminine energy that women, because we're in a female form, have special access to, because we are procreators. We have that energy in our womb that men don't necessarily have that access to. But there is when you said like a sadness, it's almost like like unlived life, right? And so that's the deep grief that I know for myself has been plaguing me as a woman, and probably my whole lineage, female lineage on both sides of my family. And then on top of that, there's the masculine who's also had to reject the feminine, who's really longing and craving that energy. And so on many levels, as you said, it's been a rejection of the fullness of life in order for some perceived benefit that we were promised. And I think the important thing is the realization of that, not necessarily blaming or shaming or criticizing, but noticing that that was part of a step in our human evolution that was necessary for us to become aware of the fullness of who we are.
Right, exactly.
So I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I think it's important what you're saying, and also the journey, because I remember in my teens and 20s, I would walk in demonstrations, feminist demonstrations and all that.
Yes.
And I'm so glad that I was part of it, but it had also a harshness to it. But it just also needed to be there to break around out of something.
Yeah.
And it seemed also, it was against something, which was needed then. And now I feel we're part of the journey. We're not against anything. It's really about being for our nature and how that nature wants to express in female form. As when you're born in male form, then you have to find out for yourself. But we are both born in female form, and to really get to know that energy inside ourselves and get to know ourselves, gosh, that's a whole other life.
Yeah.
And to dare to live that, to bring that forth, and then naturally when that comes healthy within us, because our female bodies, as far as I'm concerned, they're designed for pleasure, spirituality, pleasure and desire. That's the last thing you're so-called allowed to talk about. But we are even born out of pleasure and desire. Hopefully, when our parents came together, that was desire, pleasure, bringing forth life. We're born out of that. Everything is desire. We are. I was also trained in Kashmir and Tantra, the ancient tradition, and one of the things that I learned there is it's all about desire there and offering yourself up to the goddess. It's a non-dual goddess tradition. And you're offering yourself up to the goddess, to the space. And what you learn is like, I may desire space and the goddess, but actually she desires me too. Or I desire my toast with butter, but my toast of butter desires me too. It's a whole other ball game, that it's not all about us. It's about, and that's what will happen also when we wake up to our nature in feminine form and know that deep silence. When you walk in nature, you meet that silence meets you. But then also, I don't know, just watching the leaves on a tree, that to me is just so touching. That makes me so happy. It's just that aliveness that is in me that's being resembled outside. So it's not all sexual, it's just sensual. And the more we come in our sensuality, that the touch we receive, that we're being touched, our skin is our biggest organ, and allowing ourselves to be touched and to receive that brings life. And then we can make, one of my teachers would say, like, that we can make sense of reality by in our sensuality. So when we're so suppressed, then we become numb. When we're numb, we cannot sense ourselves. We cannot be in our sensual body. We cannot make sense of reality. And so waking up to our nature is the first step, and then bringing that fullness of silence into our bodies, or letting our bodies come to rest in the silence. Then we start waking up to our sensual body and make sense of reality, and then come to life and live as ourselves, and can leave behind our traumas and our pains and our sufferings.
Yes.
Really, you want to say?
Yes, I was just going to say, it's like It's like permission to be fully embodied. And
Yeah,
that when we don't do that, it's like the masculine suffers. Like the masculine is actually needing or calling us to
exactly.
do this.
Yes. And the masculine needs to wake up too.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know,
That's part of
I
the
mean, we
awakening,
all
right?
need to wake up
Yeah.
to our truest nature in form. And gosh, you know, I often have this idea like, how would it be, you know, if all women just would be so alive in their body? And to me, our bodies is just one yoni, one sacred
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
Just imagine all women awake to their bodies. You know, the world would be very different. Everybody would serve by that, you know.
Yeah.
It's like an opening, and then we are already very attractive to the masculine, you know. They cannot stop coming towards us. It's
Yes.
just the way they come towards us many
Yes.
times is they're not trained as we're not trained, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And as you speak of your lineage and then my lineage, where we come from, I mean, my mother didn't teach me anything about anything really, you know.
Yeah.
So it's up to us, and it sounds you have the same.
Yeah. And it's, I think part of the awakening process is, for me personally, has been dealing with the lack of, and this isn't a judgment, it's just an observation, and the lack of consciousness around the body itself. And we've been conditioned to disconnect from our body, judge our body, be very cruel and mean to our bodies, and not just women, men themselves who have sadly usually, I don't want to make generalizations about perpetrators, but physically displaying violence against the body, whether it's masculine or feminine body. But I was wondering if you could share a little bit about that idea that um, that the unconsciousness around the body may most likely, in my experience and my observation of watching my mother and her experience with her mother, is due to all the, psycho emotional wounding around the body that is very painful. So why wouldn't you want to be unconscious?
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's a very important point, that we need to wake up to that. And that journey can be very painful. Yeah. And it needs to happen for us to be free.
Yeah.
So a big part also in the way of woman is, yes, the learning to rest in a silence and to wake up out of that numbness. Because a lot of people, so-called spiritual people, they think they sit sincerely, they think, as I had to myself, that I feel I sit in the silence, but I really sit in numbness.
Yes.
And when we start realizing that, like, oh wow, it's very still, but it's numb still, it's not the awake stillness. So in that process we meet anything that's not free. So a trauma around sensuality, sexuality, or our bodies, around self-hate, shame. I mean, we're not born in shame. It's
Yeah.
all, a big part is the church, keep
Yeah.
your hands above the sheets, don't touch yourself. But it didn't stop anybody, right? It's
No.
our nature to touch ourselves. It's our nature to love our bodies, and it's taken away. So on this journey of learning to come in touch, we find our judgments, and then we put them on the altar and let it move through. So what I find is very important is that ground of silence, and then working with the trauma body, you could say, or the activated body. So what I talk about is, or in my experience, so we have this body of activation, right? When we feel activated, or there's a lot of energy and
Yeah.
something cannot relax, or there's certain pains in our body we cannot really feel. then we're in the kind of activated nervous system. And to me, we want to come from the activated nervous system to the eros system, or the eros pathway, the pathway of aliveness. That's really the journey, you could say. And first, we need to feel that traumatic, that we need to feel it, acknowledge it, accept it, and then come to the next place. And obviously, there's a lot of talk and research now around trauma. And what, first, when I studied psychology, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, then we learned more to feel things. And we still need to feel things, but in trauma, we need to go a little bit into activation and let that move and be
played out.
very still, and then let it settle. And then go dive in a little deeper and let it settle. So that's part of the work that I offer, also just working with trauma and then coming from the activated nervous system into the eros pathway, into the eros system. And that takes courage.
It sure does.
It really, to me, I have not met a person that has no trauma. Part of being on planet Earth is has trauma, just the extent to how traumatized we are. But what is interesting, something got us through. And then the more we learn to meet that numb body first, and then come to that pain body, as Eckhart Tolle talks about, and to really honor that, receive that, be touched by that, then that can open and melt into the silent hurt, into the great hurt, and come home. And then more of us can come forward. So in a way, you could say, we wake up, when we wake up to our nature, we kind of wake up out of our bodies, like, oh, no, I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, I'm not these sensations, I'm a no thing. I call it the wondrous emptiness, and it's actually the name my teacher gave me, wondrous emptiness.
Oh, I love it.
And so that, and then that wondrous emptiness is comes in, so that light, you could say, starts coming in. And then anything that's not free yet comes out, because it's seen by the light of awareness. So it comes out.
It's called
to be seen. So often we can think like, I want to be free, but the more free I want to be, the more fucked up I feel. It's actually a good sign. That means it's coming out to be seen, so it can be shaken and then melt away. Sometimes that melting is very easy. Sometimes it's very challenging, and that's why we need each other. We all need each other. And then more and more, this light, you could say more and more, as I said before, the body starts falling into our light body, into our true nature body, into woman. A woman falls into her. And then it's, something more and more over time, you will feel you come alive. I remember in my 20s, no, it was not in my 20s, in my late 20s, early 30s, I was in different women's groups. And I remember I would say, I don't feel I'm a real woman. There's something wrong, there's something wrong. I feel I'm not as alive as I can be. And I don't feel a real woman. I felt so sad. And I feel I'm a real woman now. And I know when it's possible for me, I know it's possible for anyone, Doesn't mean you will never feel trauma anymore. Doesn't mean you will never suffer anymore. No, we're human. And to me, it feels like, to me, the image that I have of way of woman, it's kind of like I see a woman just burst open, like burst through, either like rise up out of the ashes or rise up out of the water and come to life as one woman flowing. And then, she stretches her arms wide and open to just let in to herself and to feel that aliveness. And as a woman, we have been waiting so long, and we can't stop ourselves anymore. That's the amazement for me of these times. We're living in the most amazing times. Yeah, in society,
I
it's
agree.
pretty insane, but there is a consciousness. Mother Earth, Lover Earth, is rising. Her consciousness is rising. Our consciousness is rising. So it's up to us to take that opportunity and defy all the barriers and just jump right through the veil of numbness into our real life, to come to our senses and start shining as this beautiful, passionate self. And I don't know, that's my heart wish for myself and for all women. And
Well,
it makes me very
I love,
excited.
no, I love the way you're articulating this because, you know, it's this, what you're speaking of as I'm listening and tuning into what you're saying. It's, um, this feminine aspect of what it means to be a spirit, and that it's fully embodied. And it not only does it get to be fully embodied, it gets to have compassion for its experience, and it gets to have awareness of its experience. And that's really the piece that has been missing for so long, is this compassion for, the way I define trauma for my clients is any place in your life where you went unconscious
Yes,
because it
that's a
was too,
great one.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Any place where it was like not safe to be you, so you had to disembody, or you had to check out, or you had to go into fight, flight, or freeze. And that happens repeatedly. And so it's like that level of awareness has been missing. And until it is welcomed back and um, and invited as like an essential part of our humanity, nobody gets to show it fully, you know. And so you speak of, I think, I can't remember which one of your talks, you were talking about the ground of a being. And really, that's what this whole summit is about. And I didn't realize it until right now, that you had summed it up so beautifully. It's like this question of what is it to be in the ground of our being in this life? And it's not purely mental, of course, and it's not all these roller coaster rides of emotion. And it's that, but it's also and the awareness of that experience. And every generation throughout the ages, every wisdom school, every religion has asked this question: what is it to be human and in a body? And we're getting this opportunity to ask at a time where it's so essential to this next step in our evolution. And you speak of this her and this feminine energy. And it's really, this accessing this, all that is, as you speak of, which I refer to as the quantum field. It's been called lots of things,
Exactly.
source, um, but it's definitely infinite potential, and that is also us. But we've been focused on such a small band of our being that we've missed the whole picture. And now we're having the opportunity through this willingness to be in acceptance. It's no longer like we can fight against or make other people wrong or judge other people, which religion is often based on.
Duality, huh? Deep
Yeah.
duality. A lot of religion, right and wrong, good and bad, black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you're like, oh, okay. That's what it meant to love people unconditionally, starting with ourself.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's very important. And what came to me also to say when you spoke about embodiment, I always felt it's like the light coming into the body, but I also feel it's the body falling into the light, the body falling completely into the silence that we are, and then through that come to life. To me, it's kind of like almost like a magic wand that kind of touches each cell, like bling, 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 bling,
Mm-hmm.
like the stars, And then
Mm-hmm.
there's this awake body that comes forward. So it's kind of this process of the awakening body, the awakening sensual body.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say something to what you just spoke.
It's
Yeah.
clearly an embodied experience.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
don't get to bypass that.
Exactly. Yes. It's not about bypassing at all. It's like coming into the flesh. And I think we all have, in our own way, when we step into spirituality, kind of a hope in the front of our mind or the back
Yeah.
of our mind. Like, well, when I'm really supersonically enlightened, I won't have any pain anymore, or everything will be hunky dory and easy and whatever. And that's not my experience. And my experience is actually I feel everything more intensely, more purely, no filters. When there's pain, there's just pain. When there's pleasure, there's just pleasure. Just that overlay goes away. I'm bad, I'm wrong, I shouldn't feel pleasure, I shouldn't feel pain. Gosh, why don't I get over this right now? No, there's just the pure. And I had last week, I felt quite lonely. There was just a few days, there was loneliness, and just to be completely penetrated by loneliness, to allow that and not having to filter that, to me, that's freedom. That's to be in this flowing, free feminine, to allow ourselves to be experienced as who we are and not as Freud.
Yeah.
He didn't have much love for females at all, about the hystericalness and whatever. No, we are real. When it's unfiltered, it just comes in, it's being experienced, and it flows out. And I feel, when you said any place where you cannot be yourself, that's when you're traumatized. So where trauma is, I think that's such a beautiful definition. And so when that comes in, we feel when it flows, and we feel when we're not ourselves. And then we can play with that, to deepen that. And that's the embodiment, the more and more falling into the silent her and knowing that we're so deeply held. And she helps us, whatever we put out is received. And is that desire, that mutual desire. It's really only one desire of freedom and embodiment of all of life.
Yeah. Because you start realizing that there, well, when I say you, I mean I. But of course, the Buddha realized this many, many thousands of years ago that there is no freedom for others if we don't have freedom for ourselves, and vice versa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
I could actually talk to you for hours, I'm sure. But I want to respect your time, and it's been such a pleasure connecting with you and hearing about the work that you do. And it so resonates for me as a woman, and I know that it will resonate with many of the listeners um, who are female, in a female body or in a male body, um, because I really, really have a sympathy for the masculine in regards to how disconnected it has been forced to be on many levels. Um, and that's a trauma in itself. Um,
Yeah.
and so one thing I feel really like a knowing about is that when the feminine reclaims that for herself, that frees the masculine as well.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it frees your whole lineage.
Yes.
The Hopi people say when you free it up for the 7 lineages before you and the 7 in front of you. And I deeply believe that.
Yeah. It's that is the quantum field, right?
That's
You're
it. Yeah.
clearing consciousness itself. Um, because it's not just you. It never was just you. And so part of the reason why I wanted to create this summit is to talk to different experts who have answered the call of what is it, this question, what is the ground of our being? And are the definitions and the structures we're working in right now really creating health and wealth and empowerment on every level? And I would say most people would say no, but they don't know how to change it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, they just know something's wrong.
Right, exactly, deeply. And we all know it. We all know it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how do we live that? And actually inside, actually we know it too.
Yeah.
But we need to find that doorway in, and the doorway in my experience is to rest as the deep silence. And then from there, everything will be shown. Our deepest source will show us what wants to come to life, what wants to come to life as you as me. And to learn to trust that. But you live in a distraction society, it's over the top. So everything in school, in the computers, in churches, wherever we go, we're in distraction mode. Mm-hmm. So of course, a lot of people are not connected with themselves, even though more and more there's a wave coming in.
Yeah.
I just love that how, the Vedas say we're living in the Kali Yuga.
Yes.
Darkest times, and
thank you for mentioning.
In the darkest of the darkest times,
mm-hmm.
and little bright lights come, and at some point the bright lights will connect. And I feel we're living in that time where we're all connecting and coming to our ground, more and more coming to our ground, coming to our senses, and that's what brings change in our humanity here and through that. Wherever we go, not because we are like, I need to change something. It's just we bring it forward. It's because we are living it, and people get curious.
Yeah, I love it. So I just want to let you know that I've included your website and your contact information and any social media handles that you have on our event page.
Yeah.
And I'll also include them at the end of this interview if anybody wants to get in touch with you and find out more about the work that you do with the Woman's Way and the ambassador of her, the mysterious source. And as a part of the summit, I have been inviting all of my speakers to share any special offerings or anything that they would like to make available to the listeners, if that's something you're interested in. This would be a time.
Yeah, I love to offer everyone, to join a free meditation. I offer every Wednesday at noon Eastern time, free Wednesday meditation. So it's from noon to 1 o'clock Eastern time.
Okay, and they can find that on your website?
They can find it on the website, and I can send you the link, and then
that would be great.
People can get the link for a free meditation.
I will include that link on the event
They're
page.
live.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It's infinitely priceless. And everyone comes to it in different ways when they're ready. But as you mentioned, it's like consciousness itself is calling itself to awaken to a new level. And we're just along for the ride.
Yeah, exactly.
And I also want to say, not only are we just along for the ride, but who we are and when we don't show up affects everyone. And I don't know about you, but as a female in a female body, I was never taught that. Right? That's just something I've stepped into, and I'm learning right now at this time in my life. And I just think, oh my gosh, what if all the little girls right now, were given that gift?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right. Thank you so much, Marlies. It's been such a pleasure. I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing your work and your wisdom with us. I know a lot of people will benefit from your words today and your presence. So So thank you. And I'm sure we'll meet again.
Yes, yes, yes.
All
Yeah,
right.
but thank you so much, Adrienne. I'm sure a lot of people will benefit, not just from me, but all the speakers. And
Oh,
thank you
definitely.
for
Yeah.
offering this to everyone.
My
Beautiful.
pleasure. It's been such a joy. I've been enjoying it so much. I'm like, oh my gosh, should have done this a long time ago. But it's just ready when it's ready, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye for now.
Okay. Bye-bye.